Rosangela Almeida, trapped for 11 days. Riachão das Neves, Brazil, January 2018. Rosangela Almeida dos Santos is left for 11 days in a coffin. Rosangela is a 37-year-old living in Riachão das Neves. She suffered from fainting spells from the age of 7 years old. Medication helped to keep these under control. In January 2018, Rosangela was in hospital due to excessive fatigue. Whilst here, she had 2 heart attacks. Shortly after the second one, she passed away. Her death certificate listed the cause of death as septic shock, which is when an infection causes blood pressure to drop seriously low. Her family got to say goodbye to her at a wake. Afterwards, she was laid to rest in the Riachão das Neves cemetery. Waking up in the coffin, Rosangela was already weak from her hospital visit. She starts screaming for help, banging against the lid of the coffin and trying to push up the lid. She doesn't have any items she can use to help her get out, aside from the cotton wool that had been pushed into her ears and nose. Hypoxia is less of a worry, as she is in a tomb and not underground. She would have had more air than if she had been under dirt. Still, the darkness and isolation would make it more frightening. She pounds so hard on the coffin lid that she bends the nails, giving her access to the air in the tomb. She uses her head to bang on the lid, causing more bleeding and injuries. This continues for 11 days and nights until she passes out again. Then, the lid is pulled off. Locals who heard Rosangela contacted her family to get her help. Pulling her out, they find the coffin lid is slightly open. Prying the lid fully open, Rosangela is still warm. Onlookers call an ambulance. Unfortunately, at the hospital, Rosangela is pronounced dead. It's unclear when she passed out again during the 11 days that she was buried. Rosangela was reburied in the cemetery, where she now rests in peace. Stephen Small, buried in a wooden coffin. Stephen Small is a local businessman in the town of Kankakee, whose last night began with a deception. On 2nd September at 12:30 a.m., a man posing as a police officer wakes him with a fabricated burglary report on one of his properties. By 3:30 a.m., everything would change forever. His wife, Nancy, receives a phone call with 4 words. "We have your husband." Stephen wasn't just kidnapped. He was buried alive in a 6-foot by 3-foot plywood box, his potential tomb. Inside his wooden prison, he had a light connected to a car battery, a PVC pipe for air, a 1-gallon jug of water, candy bars, gum, and a flashlight. Survival tools mockingly close, yet frustratingly insufficient. Handcuffed and helpless. According to the rule of 3, a human can survive 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. The captors tell Nancy to get $1 million in cash and not to call the police. Distraught, Nancy calls the authorities anyway. She doesn't know that Stephen's captors have bugged the phone. Police start the frantic search for Stephen, while Nancy tries to raise the ransom money. Nancy receives multiple calls from Stephen's captors throughout the day. During one call, across town, an FBI officer spots a man and a woman making a call at the Sunoco station in Aroma Park. In the final call, the captors tell Nancy that because she called the police, they are refusing to take the ransom money. They don't tell her where Stephen is or if he's alive. What they don't know is that the FBI is closing in on their location. Throughout the day, the FBI receives reports of a man and a woman being spotted at different gas stations. They enter, use the phone, and then move to another gas station. The FBI agent had seen them firsthand earlier. They're identified as Danny Edwards and Nancy Risch. The FBI follows the pair to their home after 11:50 p.m. when a police officer saw Nancy Risch's car. On 3rd September, Danny and Nancy Risch are arrested and reveal a horrifying truth. Stephen had died due to a lack of oxygen. He would have gone into hypoxia, causing confusion, difficulty concentrating, seizures, and eventually death. The PVC pipe was meant to give him air for 24 to 48 hours, but it wasn't big enough, meaning he would have only had air for 3 to 4 hours. Danny and Nancy were convicted. Danny's sentence was commuted to life, whereas Nancy received a life sentence and was eventually paroled in 2022. Octavia Hatcher's tragedy. Pikesville, Kentucky, 1891. Married to James Hatcher, Octavia Hatcher's story begins with a profound loss. Her newborn son, born in January 1891, died within weeks, a cruel reminder of 1800s infant mortality, where 20 to 30% of children never survive their first year. Octavia, devastated, falls into a depression. Suddenly, she catches an unknown illness. On 2nd May, Octavia is pronounced dead due to unknown causes. In the span of a few months, James has lost his wife and child. He has Octavia buried immediately, as it needs to be done during the unusually hot May weather. What nobody knows yet is that Octavia isn't dead, just in a coma. She had contracted a sleeping sickness from a fly bite, possibly human African trypanosomiasis, a parasitic disease that affects the central nervous system, causing coma and seizures. On the surface, people are only just beginning to discover it. Below ground, Octavia wakes up. Her casket wasn't sealed properly, so she has some airflow, a tiny breath of hope. Scratch, scratch, scratch. However, despite her best attempts to claw at the casket lid, it's no use. Between the weakness of being in bed for months, the sleep sickness, and a lack of oxygen, she won't have the strength needed to free herself. She remains in this state for several days. On the surface by now, the family has realized the truth, and an emergency exhumation is ordered. They wrench off the lid and see Octavia. Her fingernails are bloodied from where she had been scraping at the casket lid. They rebury her, and once again, James's heart is shattered. He erects an expensive monument that resembles his wife, cradling their child in her arms, built near the site where she was buried twice. Now, her statue and her death have become the source of urban legends, rumors, and ghost stories. Jessica Lunsford's heartbreaking incident. February 2005, Homosassa, Florida. Jessica is 9, an age of innocence and vulnerability. On 24 February 2005, the Lunsford family wakes up to a ransacked home. Their daughter, Jessica, is missing. Police and the family search for 3 straight weeks, hope dimming with each passing day. Meanwhile, in Savannah, Georgia, John Evander Cui is arrested on a cannabis possession warrant. John has an extensive rap sheet, including burglary and child sex offenses. He was only given short sentences for his crimes, and nobody kept an eye on him after he was released. When he was arrested in Georgia, his address was in Homosassa, Florida. On 12th March, he is arrested again. The police discover that his trailer was only about 100 feet, 91 meters, away from the Lunsford's home. Back in Florida on 14th March, John's half-sister, Dorothy Dixon, gives police permission to search John's trailer. Police find John and Jessica's DNA on a bloody mattress. In police custody, John admits that he broke into the Lunsford home to burglarize it. He saw Jessica and acted on impulse. He kidnapped her, repeatedly violated her, and then forced her to hide in his closet while he went to work. 3 days after the unimaginable terror and abduction, he decided he could do nothing else to her. So, he tricked her into garbage bags and took her outside before burying her alive. On 19th March, Jessica's body is found. Being only 9 years old, she didn't have the strength to fight against the crushing weight of the earth on top of her. The best she could do was use 2 fingers to push through the plastic of the hot trash bag in a desperate attempt to get air. But it was no use. A human should be able to survive 3 minutes without air. However, Jessica was a child, and she was being crushed by dirt on top of her, reducing the time she could survive. When she was found, she was already deeply decomposed, as Florida's weather and humidity speed up decomposition. Her official cause of death was suffocation. The tiny fingers she used to push through the bag were just bones. Frustratingly, in court, John's confession couldn't be used because the police had not gotten John a lawyer when he asked for one. Still, on 7th March 2007, John is found guilty on all counts. He is sentenced to death, a punishment that would never undo his crimes. He died of natural causes before he could be punished. Her family pushes for legal changes, and Jessica's law is named in her honor. Anna Hockwalt, trapped in terror. 10th January, 1884, Dayton, Ontario. Anna is an 18-year-old girl living in Dayton. Historians can't seem to agree on Anna's story. What we do know is that Anna sometimes had an irregular heartbeat or palpitations. These could be made worse by her nervous and excitable personality. She was very excited on the day of her brother's wedding. Not only was Anna happy for her brother, but she was also a bridesmaid. Early in the morning, her brother and his bride are at the church with the priest. They were going through mass before the wedding itself. Anna and her mother are getting ready at home. She goes to the kitchen and has to take a moment to sit down. She can feel she's getting too excited. Her mother enters the kitchen to hurry her up. Anna's head is leaning against the wall. She's not responding. Medical attention is called quickly. Anna is pronounced dead at the scene. Word has made its way to the church about what happened. Anna's brother and his bride must decide whether to delay the wedding or not. The priest coldly advises them against it. After all, everything is ready. The wedding continues, but with a somber tone. Anna's funeral is the next day. She has an open casket funeral before she is buried. She's positioned on her back, a detail to watch. People at the funeral comment on the state of her corpse. They talk about how alive and well she looks, especially her skin, which seems almost flushed. This is where we get conflicting stories. One story says Anna was buried in Calvary and left to rest. Others say Anna is buried in the Woodland Graveyard, around 55 kilometers or 34 miles from Calvary. In this version, Anna wakes up and realizes she's been buried alive. She tries to claw her way out, making herself bleed over the wood of the coffin. Due to her anxious nature, she chews down her nails and pulls out her hair. Eventually, she rolls over and passes away. The darkness, silence, and isolation would have made Anna's anxious tendencies so much worse. Oxygen deprivation will have added confusion and an altered state of mind, making it so much more frightening for her. Anna's family, worrying because of the talk at the funeral, has Anna exhumed. They had buried Anna alive. It's decided it's best to cover up the event, and she is reburied. With no way to verify all the facts, we may never know if Anna was alive or dead at her funeral, frustrating historians.